Ed was extremely fond of his grandmother, Mabel, who had raised him after his parents died when he was 8 years old, but she was worried about him. She knew that he was too young to be spending all of his time with books and an old woman. Mabel prayed every night for a companion for her grandson, for she did not want to leave her Eddie alone on the earth. One morning, Ed awoke to the clamor of pouring rain outside his window. He bundled himself up, kissed Mabel goodbye, and left for the bookstore. Returning home that evening, he decided to take an alternate route to avoid the mudslides from the cliffs. As he drove, he spotted a young woman standing soaking wet at a bus stop. Ed offered to give her a ride home. She got into the car and shook off her long black hair that was dripping from the rain. "My name is Louisa," she said. She was exquisite, a raven. This nymph who had fell upon his arms enchanted Ed. They drove and talked and laughed and fell madly in love. Every day for 2 weeks, Ed would pick Louisa up at the bus stop and drive her home. Ed was completely changed. His amorous affections brought him new light. Ed was so in love that he decided he would bring Louisa home to meet his grandmother. That evening, when he got to the bus stop, she was not there. Puzzled, he drove to the house he had been dropping her off at for 2 weeks. He knocked on the door. An old woman answered in a tired voice. "What do you want?" Ed introduced himself as Louisa's Ed, the man who had been driving her home the past 2 weeks. The woman was startled, but invited Ed in the house. She invited him to sit and offered him a cup of tea. Ed asked if Louisa would be returning soon. The old woman showed Ed a picture. It was in an old frame, and the picture looked somewhat outdated. A beautiful young woman was riding a horse. "How ravishing Louisa looks!" exclaimed Ed. The old woman laid the picture down on a table and sat across from Ed. "Yes, she was very beautiful," the old woman said sadly. "What do you mean was?" questioned Ed. The old woman asked how he had met Louisa. Ed happily told her his story of rescuing Louisa from the bus stop on a rainy night. The old woman's face went blank. She put her tea down and carefully picked up the picture of Louisa. Staring at the picture, she told Ed in a crackling old voice. "It was a rainy night. Louisa was waiting for the bus, when all of a sudden, a car came skidding around the corner, out of control." The old woman paused